everyone. In the process of learning a subject, the most important and first step is to read the lesson, isn't it? In school, teacher makes us to read the lesson once before explaining. But at home, for the students who find it difficult to read the lesson and for the differently abled, we are introducing audio textbooks. These will help you to listen and read the lesson while going through the text. Our state government has provided us with PDF of the textbooks. So let us start reading the lessons. The snake and the mirror. Let us start reading the lesson. Has a snake ever coiled itself around any part of your body? A full-blooded cobra? All of us fell silent. The question came from the homeopath. The topic came up when we were discussing snakes. We listened attentively as the doctor continued with the tale. It was a hot summer night about 10 o'clock. I had my meal at the restaurant and returned to my room. I heard a noise from above as I opened the door. The sound was a familiar one. One could say that rats and I shared the room. I took out my box of matches and lighted the kerosene lamp on the table. The house was not electrified. It was a small rented room. I had just set up medical practice and my earnings were mere. I had about 60 rupees in my suitcase, along with some shirts and dhotis. I also possessed one solitary black coat which I was then wearing. I took off my black coat, white shirt, and not so white vest and hung them up. I opened the two windows in the room. It was an outer room with one wall facing the open yard. It had a tiled roof with long supporting gables that rested on the beam over the wall. There was no ceiling. There was a regular traffic of rats to and from the beam. I made my bed and pulled it close to the wall. I lay down, but I could not sleep. I got up and went out to the veranda for a little air, but the wind god seemed to have taken time off. I went back into the room and sat down on the chair. I opened the box beneath the table and took out a book, the Materia Medica. I opened it at the table on which stood the lamp and a large mirror. A small comb lay beside the mirror. One feels tempted to look into a mirror when it is near. I took a look. In those days, I was a great admirer of beauty and I believed in making myself look handsome. I was unmarried and was a doctor. I felt I had to make my presence felt. I picked up the comb and ran it through my hair and adjusted the parting so that it looked straight and neat. Again, I heard that sound from above. I took a close look at my face in the mirror. I made an important decision. I would shave daily and grow a thin mustache to look more handsome. I was after all a bachelor and doctor. I looked into the mirror and smiled. It was an attractive smile. I made another earth-shaking decision. I would always keep that attractive smile on my face to look more handsome. I was after all a bachelor and doctor too on top of it. Again came that noise from above. I got up, lit a beady, and paced up and down the room. Then another lovely thought struck me. I would marry. I would get married to a woman doctor who had plenty of money and a good medical practice. She had to be fat for a valid reason. If I made some silly mistake and needed to run away, she should not be able to run after me and catch me. With such thoughts in my mind, I resumed my seat in the chair in front of the table. There were no more sounds from above. Suddenly there came a dull thud as if a rubber tube had fallen to the ground. Surely nothing to worry about. Even so, I thought I would turn around and take a look. No sooner had I turned than a fat snake wriggled over the back of the chair and landed on my shoulder. The snake's landing on me and my turning were simultaneous. I didn't jump. I didn't tremble. I didn't cry out. There was no time to do any such thing. The snake slithered along my shoulder and coiled around my left arm above the elbow. The hood was spread out and its head was hardly 3 or 4 inches from my face. It would not be correct to say merely that I sat there holding my breath. I was turned to stone, but my mind was very active. The door opened into darkness. The room was surrounded by darkness. In the light of the lamp, I sat there like a stone image in the flesh. I felt then the great presence of the Creator of this world and this universe. God was there. Suppose I said something and He did not like it? I tried in my imagination to write in bright letters outside my little heart the words, "Oh God." There was some pain in my left arm. It was as if a thick leaden rod, no, a rod made of molten fire, was slowly but powerfully crushing my arm. The arm was beginning to be drained of all the strength. What could I do? At my slightest movement, the snake would strike me. Death lurked 4 inches away. Suppose it struck. What was the medicine I had to take? There were no medicines in the room. I was but a poor, foolish, and stupid doctor. I forgot my danger and smiled feebly at myself. It seemed as if God appreciated that. The snake turned its head. It looked into the mirror and saw its reflection. I do not claim that it was the first snake that had ever looked into a mirror, but it was certain that the snake was looking into the mirror. Was it admiring its own beauty? Was it trying to make an important decision about growing a mustache or using eyeshadows and mascara or wearing a vermilion spot on its forehead? I did not know anything for certain. What sex was the snake? Was it male or female? I will never know, for the snake unwound itself from my arm and slowly slithered into my lap. From there it crept onto the table and moved towards the mirror. Perhaps it wanted to enjoy its reflection at closer quarters. I was no mere image cut in granite. I was suddenly a man of flesh and blood. Still holding my breath, I got up from the chair. I quietly went out through the door into the veranda. From there, I leapt into the yard and ran for all I was worth. Phew! Each of us heaved a sigh of relief. All of us lit beedies. Somebody asked, "Doctor, is your wife very fat?" "No," the doctor said. "God willed otherwise. My life companion is a thin, greedy person with the gift of a sprinter." Someone else asked, "Doctor, when you ran, did the snake follow you?" The doctor replied, "I ran and ran till I reached a friend's house. Immediately I smeared oil all over myself and took a bath. I changed into fresh clothes. The next morning at about 8:30, I took my friend and one or two others to my room to move my things from there. But we found we had little to carry. Some thief had removed most of my things. The room had been cleaned out, but not really. The thief had left behind one thing as a final insult. What was that? I asked. The doctor said, "My vest, the dirty one." The fellow had such a sense of cleanliness. The rascal could have taken it and used it after washing it with soap and water. "Did you see the snake the next day, doctor?" The doctor laughed. "I had never seen it since. It was a snake which was taken with its own beauty." The first poem in our English textbook is The Duck and the Kangaroo. Let us start reading the poem. Said the duck to the kangaroo, "Good gracious, how you hop over the fields and the water too, as if you never would stop. My life is a bore in this nasty pond, and I long to go out in the world beyond. I wish I could hop like you," said the duck to the kangaroo. "Please give me a ride on your back," said the duck to the kangaroo. "I would sit quite still and say nothing but quack the whole of the long day through. And we would go to the Dee and the Jelly Belly, over the land and over the sea. Please take me a ride, oh do," said the duck to the kangaroo. Said the kangaroo to the duck, "This requires some little reflection. Perhaps on the whole it might bring me luck. And there seems but one objection. which is, if you will let me speak so bold, your feet are unpleasantly wet and cold, and would probably give me the roo, Mattis, said the kangaroo. Said the duck as I sat on the rocks, I have thought over that completely, and I bought 4 pairs of worsted socks which fit my web feet neatly. And to keep out the cold, I have bought a cloak, and every day a cigar I will smoke, all to follow my own dear true love of a kangaroo. Said the kangaroo, I am ready, all in the moonlight pale, but to balance me well, dear duck, sit steady, and quite at the end of my tail. So away they went with a hop and a bound, and they hopped the whole world 3 times round. And who so happy, oh who, as the duck and the kangaroo? Little Bobby. Let's start reading it. Little Bobby came into the kitchen where his mother was making dinner. His birthday was coming up and he thought this was a good time to tell his mother what he wanted. Mom, I want a bike for my birthday. Little Bobby was a bit of a troublemaker. He had gotten into trouble at school and at home. Bobby's mother asked him if he thought he deserved to get a bike for his birthday. Little Bobby, of course, thought he did. Bobby's mother wanted Bobby to reflect on his behavior over the last year and said, go to your room, Bobby, and think about how you have behaved this year. Then write a letter to God and tell him why you deserve a bike for your birthday. Little Bobby stumped up the steps on his room. Jessie, his pet dog, followed him. Bobby thought for some time and sat down to write a letter to God. Jessie sat beside him and started watching what Bobby was doing. Letter 1. Dear God, I have been a very good boy this year and I would like a bike for my birthday. I want a red one. Your friend, Bobby. Bobby knew that this was not true. He had not been a very good boy this year. So he tore up the letter and started again to write another letter. Letter 2. Dear God, this is your friend Bobby. I have been a good boy this year and I would like a red bike for my birthday. Thank you. Your friend Bobby. Bobby knew that this was not true either. So he tore up the letter and started again. Letter 3. Dear God, I have been an okay boy this year. I still would really like a bike for my birthday. Bobby. Bobby knew he could not send this letter to God either. So Bobby wrote the fourth letter. Letter 4. God, I know I haven't been a good boy this year. I am very sorry. I'll be a good boy if you just send me a bike for my birthday. Please? Thank you, Bobby. Bobby knew, even if it was true, this letter was not going to get him a bike. Now Bobby was very upset. He went downstairs and told his mom that he wanted to go to church. Bobby's mother thought that her plan had worked, as Bobby looked very sad. Just be home in time for dinner, Bobby's mother told him. Bobby walked down the street to the church on the corner. Little Bobby went into the church and up to the altar. He looked around to see if anyone was there. Bobby bent down and picked up a small statue of Mary, the Mother of God. He slipped the statue under his shirt and ran out of the church, down the street, into the house and up to his room. He shut the door of his room and sat down with a piece of paper and pen. Bobby began to write his letter to God. Letter 5. God, I have kidnapped your mom. If you want to see her again, send the bike. Bobby. It's written by Richa Rao.
Yeah.